I just got the EOS R7 in the mail and I am so excited because now with this camera I can use a lot of the lenses I've been using for years, like Sigma's 50-100, which are APS-C Super 35 censored lenses. They're made for cameras that are APS-C Super 35, and I haven't really been able to put them to good use on my R6 due to how it forces you to use its crop mode, which is nowhere near the kind of quality you get using the full sensor on the EOS R7. So today, as I didn't have too much time, I took the EOS R7 out with the Sigma 50-100 and Canon's VND adapter, got some test footage just to see how this thing looks in CLOG3. And full disclosure, today we're really talking only about the video modes on the EOS R7. I specifically bought it as a secondary video camera. I of course will use the stills components, as I'm gonna love having a higher megapixel rating than the EOS R6. However, I bought it primarily for video. So today's video, we're going to primarily stick to the video side of things. Now off the bat, normally I'd be holding the camera while I'd be talking about certain features, but I wanted to film the video in CLOG3 Cine Gammut while I'm talking. So everything you see right now, we're using CLOG3 Cine Gammut with Sigma's 24-70 art lens, but with a focal reducer from Viltrox. So instead of shooting at 2.8, we are shooting actually at the speed boosted aperture of f2.0. So that's really cool with the R7 that we can use the speed booster. And yes, as you see, we have autofocus. So the autofocus does work with Viltrox's speed booster and the R7. So I think that's going to answer some questions for a lot of you. The one thing I have noticed though, with using the focal reducer on the 24-70, is it seems, at least right now, to be having issues with the internal image stabilization. It gives me kind of a it won't work issue, and even though it will crop in on the sensor to use the IBIS, it seems like it just doesn't work well with the Viltrox, at least right now. You never know, that could be fixed via firmware update either on the camera side of things, or maybe Viltrox comes out with an update for their focal reducer, but I figured I would note that. So taking a look at the footage I took with Sigma's 50-100, I shot everything at the base ISO of 800, and off the bat I'll tell you that the 4K fine mode, which is downscaled from 7K, looks really great. It looks really sharp. But one thing that is common and consistent across all of the video modes, and it's unfortunately coming with shooting at ISO 800, is the grain pattern in the shadows. One thing I've noticed is just shooting at ISO 800 on a small sensor like this, you are going to get more of a grain pattern than you normally get on shooting on something like a full frame sensor. I was hoping maybe shooting in the fine downscaled mode would get rid of a lot of the noise, and it definitely is better in that mode. However, the shadows are definitely noisier in CLOG3 than on the EOS R6 at ISO 800. The other thing too is the softness of shooting in the regular 4K modes, whether it's 4K 24 up to 4K 60, versus shooting in the 4K fine mode, which only shoots in 4K 24, 25, and 30. It is noticeably sharper in the 4K fine mode, and in my opinion, if you're buying this camera for video work, that's pretty much where you're going to live, in that 4K fine mode. The difference between the EOS R7 and the R6 is when you shoot in 4K 60 or any of the normal 4K modes on the EOS R7, it is line skipped, which means you're not getting the full downscaled image like you do when you're actually using the Canon EOS R6. Whereas whether you're shooting at 4K 24 or 60, there is no fine mode in that camera. All of the 4K modes are downsampled from 5.1, 5.2K. So it's not quite as high as a 7K downsample, but it's consistent across all of the 4K frame rates. So shooting in 4K 60 on the EOS R6, at least in the sensor area that you want closer to full frame, will be better quality than on the R7. You can just see the softness in the 4K 60 image on the R7. Now, if you want a little bit of a sharper 4K 60 image on the R7, you can actually shoot in the crop mode of 4K 60, and you will get slightly sharper images because that's an exact 4K crop in the sensor. Problem with doing that though is you are extremely cropped in on the sensor at that point, which means that if you're shooting in CLOG3, you're going to have even more noise when shooting at ISO 800. Now, of course, you can shoot CLOG3 and shoot at a lower ISO, but then the lower you go, you're going to take more of a hit on your dynamic range, hitting your highlights, hitting your shadows, so the image just isn't going to be as great. Even right now, I'm shooting at ISO 160, which is not ideal, but because I'm using the focal reducer, I can't use my VND adapter, and I don't have any VNDs right now that fit this 82mm thread of the Sigma 24-70. And looking at the image, I can already see it's not quite the same as if I was to, put a VND on. As you can see, it's quite a little bit of a crop. I actually moved the camera as far back as I could, and I'm still not exactly in the frame that I was. However, this is only day one of testing the EOS R7. I plan on doing a lot more with it over the next few days, as I am really excited to be playing around with this camera, but I wanted to do some tests for myself just to see off the bat how a few things work, to kind of prep for some of my videos I'll have coming out over the next few weeks. But I figured I'd make a video out of all of it. So if you have any questions or you have any tests that you'd like to see me do with the EOS R7, please put them in the comments below and do it as quick as possible, because if you get them in quick enough, I can incorporate them into some of the videos I have coming out. Also, if you got knowledge and value out of today's video, please do me a favor and hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with the latest videos on the channel. Also, so you can see some more of this R7 content. So until next time, my name's Geoff Fagien. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next video.